All right, so let's go ahead and get started here. We're going to talk a little bit about magnification today. All right. So first up, just a little background about the Prevention of Blindness Society. We are a nonprofit. We serve the DC metro community, focusing on eyesight, eye health, and quality of life for individuals with vision loss. In particular, today we're focusing on that last bullet point. And we've been around since 1936, serving the community. We serve about 13,000 people every year. Low vision wise, we offer our low vision resource and support group network, which include events such as today, as well as support groups, town halls, resource guides, newsletters, and all sorts of ways to help get you connected with the resources, services, and people experiencing vision loss. Additionally, we have a center in Bethesda as well as in Alexandria where you can come make an appointment to learn about the available resources, services, and try out different technologies. So that's a great opportunity to get yourself connected with a resource navigator and to try out these different technologies. And then finally, we do have a low vision doctor that operates in our DC and Alexandria offices, and then right below us in Bethesda, who can provide individual personalized rehabilitation plans for people with vision loss. So let's go ahead and get into our topic. First things first, though. Before we get into magnification, I'd be remiss if I did not talk about lighting and contrast. These are two major factors that when we optimize these two, you may in fact find that you need less magnification than you once previously thought. So it's important that we maximize these before maximizing magnification. Say that 3 times fast. So when it comes to lighting, there's two main types of lighting: ambient or the room lighting, and then task lighting. So ambient lighting is the lighting that's in the space that you are. That could be if you're outside the sunlight or if you have windows, sunlight coming into your room. It could be the overhead lights or the lamps that are lighting up your room, and so on and so forth. With ambient lighting, we want to try to make sure we have nice, consistent lighting throughout the space. So that way we can minimize shadows. That's a safety thing, but it also can help when it comes to magnification. If we have good lighting, it makes it a little bit easier to see. And then we have task lighting. Task lighting is the lighting we use and we direct right onto what we're doing, whether that be reading a book, cooking, or paying our bills. All of those sorts of things, or another activity we may be doing, let's say, is doing the crossword puzzle. Whatever that task might be, it's the light that is shining directly on that. So when it comes to task lighting, I do recommend something like a gooseneck lamp. Now I do have a visual of that on the PowerPoint. I'm not sure if you can see let's see. We'll try the laser pointer. I know if you're lower vision, you may not be able to see this, but I am circling a lamp, a desktop lamp that has a gooseneck that can be adjusted. So this gooseneck, why is it a gooseneck? Because gooses, they have necks that can move all over the place. When it comes to a task, to a lamp, that's what you want, because then you can angle the light on whatever you're focusing so it's directly on it. It's really important that we put lighting directly on what we're trying to focus on, because if you end up putting it at an angle, or you put it so there's shadows coming down on what you're focusing on, that can cause some issues with glare as well as issues seeing things with extra shadows. So it's really important that we focus it right on what we're doing. In general, we recommend LED lights because they are not going to be hot to the touch, whereas the traditional halogen bulbs can get really hot, so you could potentially burn yourself. And then also many LED lights also have what are called dimmer options. So you can adjust the brightness of it. You can make it go brighter or less bright. Because another piece is finding the right balance of light. We don't want so much light that it's reflecting and hurting our eyes, but we want to have fair amount of light so that way we can optimize what we're trying to read or see. And then the other thing I want to talk about is contrast. Now, at the top right, I have shown here, it's a little box that has contrast with white background and black print, and then on the other half is white print on a black background. That is an example of good contrast. Many things that we may be reading often don't have good contrast. For example, a lot of pill bottles may have different colored writing or different colored backgrounds. The cereal boxes or cooking supplies or cans, can't think of the word today, cans and things like that. They can be also at an angle and they may be, blue print on a yellow background. And that's not necessarily a strong contrast. So that can make it difficult to see if you have vision loss. So we want to try, if we can, to optimize this contrast. So that's the difference between what you're trying to read and its background. Okay. Now I've got to get rid of this laser pointer before I can move forward, apparently. There we go. All right, so let's talk a little bit about magnification tools. And I appreciate you all working with me with my I'm trying to get too fancy with the laser pointer. So let's first talk a little bit about traditional magnifiers. These are our Sherlock Holmes magnifiers. I have a couple of them pictured on the slide, but these are the magnifiers that you hold in your hand, and they have a circular piece, and in the middle is the magnifying glass. Now, there are some with light, there's some without light. In general, we recommend the ones with light because it will have a LED bulb that is lit directly on whatever you're trying to read or to see. So for tasks or trying to read things on a bottle, for example, these can be really powerful tools. Now, when it comes to these magnifiers, though, there's a couple things when it comes to using them. One, you want the magnifier to be level with the reading material. If you're trying to read something and you have the magnifier held at an angle of what you're trying to read, it may reflect it awkwardly, which can make the magnification distorted and difficult to see. Now, the other thing we want is to have the magnifier at the correct focal point. What is a focal point? That is where the magnification is optimized when it comes to the power, but also where the print is the clearest. You may notice with a magnifier that if you hold it too far away, all of a sudden the print's upside down. And that's due to the laws of optics. I'm going to get to that in just a second. But really, you want that focal point at the best place, and you'll know it just by adjusting, and you'll figure it out. Now, the stronger the magnifier, the closer the focal point will be to the reading material. Getting into the laws of optics. So I mentioned how it may flip over and you have to have it at the right focal point. The other thing that we run into is that there is a limit on the power of the magnification you can have with the size of the actual magnifier. So many times people will come into our center and they'll say, I want the largest and the strongest magnifier you can get. And unfortunately, those oftentimes do not go together. The strongest magnifier we may have, and it is pictured here, but it's very difficult to see. We have a 10x handheld magnifier. Now, it's very, very magnified, but the field of view of the magnifier is about the size of a silver dollar. So it makes it difficult to see everything. And then the larger magnifier that's maybe 2x could be almost the size of a dinner plate. But that may not be enough magnification for people. Why is this? It's due to the laws of optics. I'm not going to go into details on that just because it's not gonna help inform us any extra way. But also two, the main things we need to know is that you are limited on the power of your magnification versus the size of the magnifier when it comes to these traditional magnifiers. The other thing I want to mention is there are different types. We have the handheld, but we also have different ones called stand magnifiers, which I do have pictured at the bottom right. So these stand magnifiers are great, especially if you're doing prolonged reading, or let's say maybe you have a tremor, so you can't hold that magnifier still. What they do is instead of having to hold it, you just place it on what you're trying to read, and it has a little stand on it that holds the magnifier in place, and you just have to slide it across the reading material. What's really nice about stand magnifiers as well is that the stand is directly at the focal point that you need, so that you know wherever that magnifier is placed down and resting, that's where your magnification is going to be optimized. Most of these stand magnifiers also have lighting, which is another great benefit. The downside to stand magnifiers is that they're going to be a little bit larger and a little bit bulkier to handle. So you may not be able to carry it everywhere, but it is a really great tool to be using if you want something like that. You, especially if you're doing prolonged reading or you're working on a cookbook or something like that. There are some other modified versions of that, such as a dome magnifier. So it's exactly how it's described. It's a dome, just like, the New Orleans Superdome. It's a dome magnifier, like an igloo. And you just put it on the reading material and you slide it across. They are, there are also versions called bar magnifiers, BAR. That's just like a bar, and you just slide it along your reading material. These are nice, especially if you're trying to read and keep it straight on a line. The only downside is you are definitely limited on the power magnification when it comes to things like that. The other thing you may notice is that there are magnifiers on some lamps, and you'll see these marketed very frequently for people with vision loss. I have a couple of them illustrated here. One is called the Light. That's the name brand one that we have. There's off brands as well. Light though, it's pretty economical. They're not overly expensive, and they have goosenecks. So you'll remember me talking about lamps earlier that goosenecks are advantageous. Same goes when it comes to lamps that have a magnifier on them. Now, these magnifiers sound really great. However, they are oftentimes limited on the level of power. So the magnifiers that you'll see with lamps oftentimes won't get much higher than 3.5, maybe 4 times power, which is pretty strong for a lot of us, but it may not be strong enough for others. These are especially good if you are doing things like crafts. So if you, let's say if you're a whittler or if you're a knitter or a sewer, because you can put the lamp or you can angle it so that way you're whatever you're working on is directly below the magnifier, but then you can put it close enough so you can see it through your own eyes. It may also be useful when it comes to reading. However, that does mean you have to fix yourself into a specific location, so it could be a little bit more difficult. And then some other unique magnifiers. If you want to try different things, there's all kinds of things. There's vanity mirrors, first off. That's one thing that many of us may benefit from, not only if you're trying to do your makeup, but also if you're trying, for example, to brush your teeth or if you're shaving, or all of those, or doing your hair or something like that. Having that 3 or 4 power magnification can be useful in that sense. There's also things like pendant magnifiers, so it's like a pendant around your neck. People like wearing them when they're out and about, especially if they're like grocery shopping, and they want to see the price real quick. It's just around their neck, so all they have to do is grab it. And I'm just going to slide my camera down a little bit because I'm doing a lot with my hands here. They can just grab their pendant magnifier and then focus on what they're trying to see. There's pocket magnifiers, so they look like a credit card, and it slides out a little magnifier that you can look through. Again, these are good for small things. I would not recommend these for extensive or long-term reading. Now, the other major type of magnification are electronic magnifiers. Now, remember me talking about the laws of optics and how you're limited on the power versus the size? Well, the good news is with electronic magnifiers, we don't have to necessarily follow those rules. So we're able to make much bigger magnification on large screens. I have pictured here two of the main varieties. One is the tabletop magnifier. These are commonly called CCTVs, where you have a platform, and that's where you place your reading material. There is a camera that directly points down at your reading material. And then there is a large monitor that you can then adjust not only the magnification power, but also the lighting and the contrast. So the contrast, so you can switch it from like whatever it is to maybe black on white, white on black, blue on white for some people they like, yellow and black, or just inverted colors. So there's a lot of nice different contrast opportunities that you have with these electronic magnifiers that are not offered through the traditional magnification opportunities. Now, I mentioned there are these desktop ones. There's also handheld ones. The ones that people talk about most frequently is the Ruby. I have this one pictured. That's by Freedom Scientific. That's a name brand. There are other companies that make very similar models, but Ruby is going to be the main one. If you're interested in looking at the other ones, that's great. They do a lot of the same things, and they can do exactly what the tabletop magnifiers do. They are just smaller, so it's a smaller field of view. And then there's some medium-sized ones that I like to call the tablet electronic magnifiers because they're about the size of that tablet, like an iPad that you may have at your home. And those are nice because it's a nice medium size. So if you need to move it on the go, it's a little bit larger than the handheld ones, but it's still small enough where it can slide into a large purse or a backpack so you can take it with you to places. A lot of students like to use the tablet-sized ones, especially. What is the downside to these video magnifiers? First and foremost, or they're electronic video. They use the names in the same way. But these video magnifiers are expensive. So that's the big downside to these. A newer model of a tabletop can run between $3,500 and $5,000. And then the handheld one, like the Ruby, will be about $1,000 new. So they're not cheap, but they are powerful tools. We do have these at our center because we want people to try them out and figure out if it is what they need before they go and spend that kind of money. Because we do know that that is a very cost prohibitive purchase. So we have to plan for it and we want to make sure that it is going to get used. It's not going to collect dust. Now, I mention these, but I also want to mention smartphones and tablets like the iPad. Now, iPhones or the Android phones today, they actually have magnifiers right on them. You may notice, especially with the newer iPhones, the cameras, and I'm holding up my camera here, the cameras now have become extraordinarily strong. There are professional photographers that will use their iPhones now for doing imaging. And what does that mean for us? It means that the quality of the electronic magnifier that's on our smartphone is much, much better. I have an iPhone 11, so this model is about 4 or 5 years old. Yes, I still have the same phone from 5 years ago. It's working great. So they do last a while. But the magnification on it is pretty darn close to the Ruby. And if you already have a smartphone, the app for your magnifier is free. So instead of spending $1,000, you can just use the app on your phone and access it for free. It has the same kinds of contrast changes and magnification tools as you'll see with something like the Ruby or with the tabletop magnifier. And then what's also nice is that you can take photos with the Ruby, but you then have to have that Ruby handy, and sometimes we just don't have those machines with us. We always have our smartphones with us. I don't, if you have a smartphone, and even if you're over the age of 90, many of us have smartphones now. You take a photo of what you're trying to read, you're going to have that smartphone ready to go. It's saved in our photos. And then the other thing I want to mention is the tablets. So for Apple, it's an iPad. For Android, there's all kinds of names for them. Forgive me, I don't remember the names off the top of my head, but those tablets also have the cameras on them that can take photos and then you can magnify things, and it can be another useful tool. And then there's some other ways that we can magnify that are not your traditional, oh, well, I'm have something that's magnified right in front of me, but are other options out there. First off is large print. You can get a large print option for many things. If you're on your computer, you can magnify things on your computer for no extra cost. There are softwares that have stronger magnification, but there's also magnification already installed up to 3x on your computers in your settings. So large print is one way that will manually make things a little bit bigger. I understand that large print sometimes isn't large enough, but if you can do large print and then maybe a weaker magnifier versus having to have a very strong magnifier, that could be another added bonus. For writing, there are writing guides out there as well as some pens. We call them 2020 pens or bold writer pens. These have the thickness and clarity of a Sharpie, but they do not bleed through. So it can be another way where we increase our contrast and make our print larger so that way we can see it. The writing guides help because it allows us to still write things, but it puts them in line with where we need to be signing them. So if maybe we can't see what that check says or where the writing is, we can put these writing guides on and then we have a guide so that way we know that we're writing where we need to write. And then the other thing too is that there are audio options out there. Now I know again this is not magnification, but at some point some of us may not be able to utilize magnification anymore. If you have magnification and you're still unable to read faster than 100 words per minute, you're really going to exhaust yourself and it's going to be more difficult than being able to enjoy. And so when you get to that point, you really should consider moving to more audio options. I have pictured here a talking clock. This is a clock that you can just press the button and it vocalizes what time it is. There are traditional digital clocks that also have the talking option there. There's talking thermometers, there's talking blood pressure monitors, talking pretty much anything. Additionally, you can get audio options for your books. The Talking Books program through the Library of Congress and National Library Service is a really great free way to get audiobooks or books on tape. While it may not be reading, it still allows you to enjoy many, many books. They have tens of thousands of selections now in various languages. And again, it's a free service that's out there that can be useful. There's also, if you still want to enjoy the newspaper, the Metropolitan Washington Ear, well, they will have a human read the newspaper every morning by 6 a.m. So that way you can then listen to it. If you have other newspapers or periodicals you want to listen to, that's okay. There's something called NFB for National Federation of the Blind Newsline, where they have dozens of newspapers and periodicals available. And again, both of these are free options out there. So again, even if we have to move to audio, just know that there are a ton of free options out there that have quality services. Because I don't want you having to spend 150, 200, even $1,000 on things like using Audible all the time or using some other service for people to read to you when you can access it through a free service.
Alexa, what time is it?
All right. And so, I heard somebody just mention Alexa. So Alexa is another great tool when it comes to audio because you can hook up your phone to things. It can make grocery lists for you. It can tell you what time, the weather, all kinds of different things. So that's another great tool that you can utilize when it comes to moving to the audio side of things. And again, I know sometimes audio is not what people want to hear, no pun intended, but it could be a really valuable tool for you moving forward if magnification, even with 10, 12, 15x magnification, isn't working as much for you anymore. Now, I'm going to pause here for some question and answer. I do have our contact information shown on the screen right now. If you have questions, you can unmute yourself. Again, that's going to be Alt plus the letter A. There is a microphone-shaped button that you can press. And if you're on the phone, it's *6. Please feel free to ask your question verbally, or you can also type in your question in the chat box.
I have a question.
Yes,
Can you hear
ma'am.
me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Martha. I have my computers down so I can look at my big monitor. Could you say a few words about binoculars and telescopes, if that's relevant at all, and if not, okay.
Sure thing. Yeah. So that would be for distant magnification. So that can be a useful tool when you're out in public, but I really want to focus on if you're out in public but stationary. Do not focus on using binoculars or telescopes unless if you've had specific training for it with a low vision specialist whenever you're walking around, because while you may have that magnification right here, your field of view is extremely diminished. So you may not see that car coming your way whenever you're trying to cross the street. Even if you can see it's a walk sign, you still want to look both ways before crossing the road. So safety for me always becomes really important when it comes to being out in public, which is where I would imagine I see most people using telescopes and binoculars. But if you're at let's say a viewing for like a movie or for a play, or you're trying to just enjoy, your grandson's baseball game or something like that, and you need that magnification for distance view, it can be a great tool. Is it going to fit for everybody? No, but it is definitely an option.
I was thinking of like watching the birds in the backyard sort of thing,
Yeah,
sitting down.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it works exactly the same as somebody who'd be fully sighted and likes to use the binoculars, except instead of looking, 300 feet away, you're trying to look at something 10 feet away. But yeah, it would work the same basic way.
So that in the same rules of the laws of optics, as you say, that would still pertain the kind of magnification that you want.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, with binoculars though, they've got a lot of the reason why binoculars tend to be expensive is because they have a lot of tools on them that can adjust, and
Right.
they have multiple lenses in them. So that way, when you're trying to adjust it to make things more powerful, that allows you to get a little bit more behind it.
You said training. I was given a Bushnell telescope. I'm blind in one eye, but my other eye's okay. And I'm having trouble with it. So is there somewhere that you can get training? You mentioned
That's
that.
Yeah, good question. The best thing to do is to work, if you're working with a low vision specialist, work with them and get pointers from them. The other place I would also look at, well, there's two places I would look at. One is there are state agencies. If you're already in the system, they may be able to provide some training. So there's something called the Independent Living Older Blind Program in each state. So if you're in Virginia, it's for the Virginia Department for the Blind. If you're in DC, it's DC RSA. And then in Maryland, it's the Department of Rehab Services. But if you're already in that system, that's one place to look. They may be able to give you some training.
Are
And then
your navigators what you call low vision specialists?
no, so a low vision specialist is going to be an optometrist that does specialization. So
Okay,
optometrists
thank
that
you.
do this, they would prescribe these sorts of things. So that's a little bit, our resource navigators, that's a little outside of our area of expertise. Can we work with you on certain things? Sure. But the best thing to do is probably to work with that specialist. The other thing you can also look at is there are a lot, going on the internet, you're always a little hesitant, but there are a lot of instructional videos that you can see and find on YouTube. That there's people out there that may be able to do it and to demonstrate some things. Is it going to be the word of the law? I can't guarantee that, but it could be some things to try. Again, safety is my number one thing when it comes to that. So don't try something that would put you in danger, I guess is the best way to say it. For example, too, don't wear your binoculars around or your telescopes. I would be very hesitant to use that when like walking up and down stairs or even walking around the house because tripping hazards can be there when you have that extra magnification in one spot, but not in your other visual field.
Thank you very much. That's very helpful.
Absolutely. I see a couple questions in the chat box. When do we do these presentations? We do them on every third Tuesday at 1 o'clock. Will the devices be available to see and try at the Low Vision Resource Center? Yes, I believe everything I shared today is, let me just look through. Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, because all of these are images from our office. So yes, we do have all the ones shared. Let's see. All right. Glad. Some devices like talking calculators and clocks also have large print. Yep, that's absolutely true. The combo is nice. The Washington ear for newspapers is wonderful. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm happy to hear that Ashley's getting some good use out of using the Washington ear as well as the talking products. And then yeah, Google Assistant is the Google version of the Amazon Alexa. They also are good tools.
Do you have a picture of the stand magnifier?
So I'm moving back. I'm back on my slideshow. At the bottom right, I have a couple photos of them. They look exactly like your handheld magnifier, except they have the ring around the magnifier is just extended, so that way it can like be placed on the ground. So they're
I
just a
can
little
see
bit
now.
bulkier.
Yes, I can see now. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Another question in chat. Is there a way to roughly judge the magnification power of a handheld if that is not on the device? That's a good question. That's difficult to say. I don't know the answer to that. Not unless if you have, maybe if you have a lensometer sticking around, which is something that would be in an optical office. But it would be difficult unless if you're used to looking at the magnifiers. I wouldn't stress too much if you can't see the number to it. If it works for you, great. If it's not, just try a little bit stronger, and then work from there. You can also
Sean?
center, and we can work with you on that. Yes.
Yeah, I have a suggestion. It's Frank Linton. Um, you can hold the magnifier and look at something like your finger with one eye, and so that half your finger is magnified and half of it isn't. And if the image in the magnifier is twice the width of your finger, it's a 2x magnifier. So you can just you look at some object and compare the width magnified and unmagnified at the same time.
Thanks, Frank. Yeah, and that's something, for those of you who are new to the groups, these unique solutions are something you don't find on your own. You have to attend groups like this because then everyone's got a new way to do it. Thank you, Frank. And Janice, I see you have your hand raised. Go ahead.
Yeah, you mentioned that if you're at a certain level where magnification is of no assistance and you're more audio, I wanted to let the group know that the Washington Ear has a program where they will give you a free Amazon Echo device.
Oh, thank you for sharing that, Janice. And for those of you who don't know, an Amazon Echo is the same thing as an Alexa, but it's smaller. So the good news is if we're using audio, we don't necessarily care about the size of the device. So it can still be a great tool. Go ahead, Janice.
No, I'm done. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, this is Ashley. I hope you can hear me from here. Yeah, so yeah, you read my earlier comment, which is great. I'm glad you have these every monthly. I mean every third Tuesday. Yeah, and um yes, I do like the Washington Ear. I listen to it quite often and it's a wonderful free resource. My question was regarding some of the smaller the handheld magnifiers and then the electronic ones that are portable. I think you mentioned the Ruby. I guess the question is, having not seen them very often, I was wondering, are these light lightweight things, the devices that you can like say small enough but powerful, like you could put in like a purse? Because like for me, I probably would only need like 2 or 3x magnification because like I have a small field of vision, so actually if you magnify it a lot then I'm seeing less because I don't have much field of vision. So I try to go, if I'm using something magnified, like 2 or 3 or sometimes 4x. So yeah, I was wondering about that. Yeah, and like for the lighted ones, how are they lighted? Are they like lighted with like a battery with it that a battery to power the bulb, or how does that work? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question, Ashley. So first thing, if you only need 2, 3x, don't get a Ruby. Just have a handheld magnifier. They're not super heavy. Now, again, a handheld magnifier, if you're going to be reading for long periods of time, you may get a little bit tired just because, if you hold your hand here for a long period of time, you're going to get tired. But in general, they're not extraordinarily expensive or heavy, excuse me. They're also not extraordinarily expensive, but they're not very heavy in that sense. And then what was the second part of your question? I apologize.
Yeah, the last part was
Lighting.
regarding how does
Yeah.
it light up, and is
Yeah.
the little bulb powered by like a battery that you'd have to
Yeah.
replace,
It
something like
is.
that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's battery powered. They're little LED bulbs.
I got it.
Battery powered. It takes like two, depending on the company, it's like one or two double A's and maybe three triple A's. So batteries like that, they last for a long time though. I can tell you, some of the handheld magnifiers we've had in that office for 4 years, and I've had to change the batteries maybe once.
Wow.
So they do last a while. Now we don't use them every single day, but they will last quite a while.
That's helpful to know. I'm glad that the light lasts a long time, because I was thinking if I had a lighted one, I wouldn't want to worry about it running out. Because if you're using it around it, while traveling or in a community setting, you probably wouldn't be near a battery to, get out one and change it. So
Right.
that's
Yeah. So it's,
good to know.
yeah, I mean, it never hurts to, hide a couple extra batteries in your purse. Handheld magnifiers will fit in your purse.
Okay.
Unless if you have, one of those tiny designer purses. But even then, maybe it'll fit. I mean, they fit in pockets, so they're pretty doable.
Oh, and I'm assuming one more thing is to clarify, is it the big difference between the standard magnifiers that you talked about at the beginning, the handheld ones, versus the electronic ones, that the fact that the electronic ones provide like contrast and maybe more lighting options on it because they are electronically driven. I think the Ruby, like went up to 20x or something. So is that like one of the main differences in addition to like the cost, would you say?
Yeah, so with an electronic magnifier, you're going to get a larger field of view, stronger magnification, better contrast options, and better lighting. And then the other thing too is a lot of them you can like take photos of stuff. So if you can get a photo of it, then you can kind of move it to yourself. So it just it makes life easier for a lot of those different things. But then you pay for it on the back end with the cost. Versus a handheld, it's got to be at the right angle. It's got to be you have to bring your own lighting, all of those sorts of things, right? The electronic magnifier, it's got all of the bells and whistles to allow you to really do a lot of things.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, yeah. I personally I'll just say quick comment is that I've heard the new Ruby is something gonna look into because it does OCR and like it'll speak to you. So for those of us who can't read for a long time,
Mhm.
I think that's a cool thing about it's like a combo magnifier and it'll OCR things and talk to you or like read it back to you. But it
Absolutely.
is expensive. So thank you.
Yeah, sure thing. The other thing I would mention is that there is an app on your smartphone called Seeing AI where you can take a photo of a document and it'll read to you as well. And it's a free app. So if you're looking for something like that, that's another option there. Uh, just throwing that out there. We did have a question. How much does the Washington Ear cost to subscribe? It is free. There is no cost associated. You just have to get with the Metropolitan Washington Ear. It's an area nonprofit. They will get you signed up for the service. They will send you the information that you need, and then you get to go from there. What are some good electronic CCTVs that provide audio? Does your center have demos? We do have one that has audio options to it. It's the Optelec. It's not the Clearview. It's called something else. But it's an Optelec one. There's a lot of different brands. There's Freedom Scientific, there's Optelec, there's LCI, there's Humanware, there's another company. There's many different companies. A lot of them do the same thing. So at the end of the day, you just got to pick what's best for you. They're going to do a lot of exactly the same stuff.
Right. Hey, Sean, this is Joe.
Joe, good. Maybe you remember off the top of your head.
Yeah. Yeah, the one you're right. The one we have in the office is the the Clearview speech. That is the
That's
one
what
that
okay,
magnifies.
Clearview and then
So we do have that in the office to demonstrate. Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, yep. So you got it.
Thank you, Joe. Janice, your hand's raised?
Yeah, I had a similar question. If you knew the name of any of the tablet magnifiers.
So it's going to come from the same companies.
Mm-hmm.
Optilec's called the Traveler.
The Traveler. Okay.
Eschenbach, we don't have the Eschenbach in the office, but they have a one. LCI's got one. LCI's got they've got some pretty nice ones. They've designed them to be very lightweight because they're actually
Mm-hmm.
designed for like kids in school, so they can just pack it up, put it in a backpack, so they can go to the next class. But
Mm-hmm.
for the medium-sized ones, I like that for anyone because you still
Mm-hmm.
want to move them around, but these ones they can stay in one place and they don't take up a whole lot of space. Because
Mm-hmm.
these desktop ones, they're called desktop for a reason. You want to put them on the desk and leave them there. So the
Right.
smaller ones do have those options. So again, I'm not endorsing any brand or anything like that, but uh, LCI is a little bit different in that those medium-sized ones, they set up just like a tabletop, but then they're really easy to just pack right down, throw in a bag and go.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions today? These are good questions. Again, to unmute yourself, there's a button at the bottom left of your screen. Looks like a microphone or Alt plus the letter A. I see this.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Um, Go ahead.
Well, I'm the one with the big problem, and I having a lot of troubles almost with everything, but going to the store, uh, any kind store, and look at the price of the or the name of the article, it's almost impossible for me. I most of the time, if I'm alone, I ask people to read for me, and I don't know. Probably you talk about it, a little device for me to be able to see the price in the article.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you said it at like the grocery store?
The grocery store or going to the shopping for clothes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So a handheld magnifier would be a good option for that because it's something you can store it in a purse and then you can pull it right out so you can read,
Right.
what's the price? Is it the low sodium option or looking at the nutrition facts? Maybe is there a sale or something like that? So it's something that you can look at that's quick versus, that's what they're really good for, not like reading a whole book or a whole article.
Uh-huh.
The other thing though, like at the grocery store, if you go to the customer service desk when you come into a grocery store, especially if you go like in the middle of not during peak hours, so weekends or like weekdays in the evening time maybe not, but if you can go like during off-peak hours, you can ask for an assistant to come with you. And many of the grocery stores will accommodate that. Because at the end of the day, they want your money. So if you're gonna keep coming there and they're providing that good experience where you're gonna keep coming back and getting your groceries there, your clothes there, they'll be happy to do that.
Yeah, but I usually do not like ask anybody for
That's a
help.
fair, yeah, I
Only
mean,
the person that is next to me or around me. So that's what I'm asking. The little
yeah.
device that you say that I can put it in my purse, where I find this device.
Yeah, so a lot of the if you haven't had a low vision, I would recommend first a low vision exam. So you can find, are there other ways that you can maximize your sight? And then they can prescribe the right magnifier size for you. But the additional thing you could try is there are websites online too where you can get them from. For example, Maxi Aids is one option. And you can get those are good, especially to like hold you over while you're waiting for your low vision exam. They're not too cost prohibitive. You can get them for under $100 oftentimes. So it's still a good option to be able to get them that way. But yeah, a little handheld magnifier is a great tool to have when you're out and about. If you have a smartphone, There's a magnifier already on your smartphone, so you can also use that if you have one.
If I found it.
Yes, if you find your smartphone, yeah.
Yeah, if I found it,
Is it an app?
It's a
I
free it's a
have
free app. It's just called Magnifier. Uh
yeah.
well, if you can't find it, it's in your settings under accessibility. If you can't find it yourself, make an appointment with us at our center, and we'd be happy to walk you through that to get you set up.
Okay, okay.
If
I will try that, but I would like to find something that I don't need to go to my cell phone because I get lost.
Yeah,
So if you have an iPhone, you can just say, "Hey Siri, open magnifier," and it'll open it up for you.
Uh-huh. Yeah, okay. Okay,
thank
that's
you.
a good idea. And thank you. Thank you so much today. It was a very special day
Very good.
and very helpful day. So appreciate very much.
Thank
And I'm Emma Stein.
Ms. Stein. Well, thank you. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to give us a call. We can talk to you over the phone, or we can also make an appointment. And again, our appointments, we call them appointments. They're free. There's no
Mhm.
cost or anything associated with it.
Okay, it was wonderful, very special for us, losing our vision. We needed help.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we did have a question in the chat box. What's the cost of one of these tabletop electronic magnifiers with audio? Yeah, they're not cheap. They'll be $3,500, $4,000. They're not cheap. If you are involved, or if you can work through your state agency, so again, Department of the Blind and Vision Impaired in Virginia, Maryland Doors, or DCRSA, they can get it to you at a much reduced cost, oftentimes free, but it does take some time. But if you're looking to get one yourself, yeah, I mean, they're expensive, unfortunately. We do periodically get some donated to us that are used that we can get back in the if that's something that you're trying to do. And then Frank shared head-mounted magnifiers did not work for me. Yeah, these wearable ones, I'm always a little hesitant about.
Oh God,
They can be so
Sherry,
customized
always tell me.
or so specific to individuals. I'm always very hesitant when it comes to those head-mounted ones. And again, the other thing too is that if you start walking around with these head-mounted ones, your visual field's going to be distorted. So you put yourself at safety risk too. Janice, go ahead, raise your hand. We got time for one more question after Janice.
I was going to make the comment that the state agencies don't automatically get the devices to you at a reduced cost. It's based on your household income.
Correct. Yeah, I should have mentioned that, Janice. Now, most people will get a reduced price, especially if you're already visually impaired or blind. But yes, there could be an assault cost associated, but most people, you're not going to be interacting with that. All right. Any other questions? If not, we'll wrap up here.
I have a non-magnifying question. Do we have time for that? Quick. It's a quick one.
Go right ahead, Martha.
Do you have canes in your Bethesda office?
We do have a white cane there. We don't distribute them. At the end of the day, with the white cane, you do want to get some training on it because there's a right way and a wrong way to use one.
I
But
know.
we do have them.
I have had the training through the state, but the one that we both agreed was the best for me, they didn't have available to distribute. So when I get the name of the one, I just wonder, do I come to you to buy it or do I just order it myself?
If you know which one you need and you've had the training, you can order it yourself. I'm going to put Sharon on the spot here if she's still here because I know she's mentioned the one website before. Sharon said ask the instructor. So if you have your contact information for your instructor, they can directly get you involved with that.
Okay, thank you very much.
And
Yeah.
Sean, this is Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there are a total of 3 canes in the office. One is like the one piece. We do have the really light Identicane and then like a standard ASCII one that Sharon Payne actually graciously gave to us. So just, we do have them. And again, like you say, we don't sell them, but we can demonstrate. Yeah. Yep. Thanks.
From Sharon Payne to
All right. All right, everyone. Well, thank you again for joining today. This was a great conversation with you all. I hope you all learned something from it. If you have any more questions, please feel free to give our resource guide a call. Again, it's 301-951-4444, and we'll be happy to answer any of your questions. Don't forget, tomorrow we do have our town hall about Metro Access. But otherwise, we hope you all enjoy the rest of your day, enjoy the weather outside, and we'll see you next time.